What's up YouTube, it's JP Dunphy, your BMW genius here at BMW for Washington. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I like to call the idiot's guide to iDrive8. I mean that you're an idiot, just simply I'm going to break it down as simply as possible. So if you're new to BMW or if you're making the transition from iDrive7 to iDrive8 from our previous BMWs, you'll know how to navigate through this new system. I've done a similar video to this before, but I figured there's some newer things that are coming out, so I'd like to update it with this. So with that, let's turn you around and get you in. For those of you who don't know, this giant curved display is known in BMW as iDrive8. You have down here your iDrive controller, which has been updated. Now it's a haptic response. It doesn't move like before. It kind of like vibrates to make it work. But the main thing you'll need to know is how to interact with your control display and your instrument cluster. Your instrument cluster is probably the most simple of all of them. Basically, the only thing you need to know is whenever you have this, you do have a couple options for you. Now, you could have one of two steering wheels. This is going to be the main steering wheel you get for the most part, outside of the 3 Series, 4 Series, and 2 Series. That means that to change anything in this, you'll use this guy right here. Pressing this button gives you your options over here on the right-hand side. You scroll through it using this right here. So you can tell what you want in the center there. This is your first one, your content. Everything from standard to your trip data, assisted view, which is sort of like what Tesla has in theirs. This is only available, by the way, if you get your driver assistance professional in one of your cars. In the 7 Series and coming out in the X7, as well as the upcoming 5 and 6 will get AR as well. Augmented reality will give you basically what your car sees in an augmented reality view right here. If you have one of the newer ones, you can also get augmented reality right here when you use your your navigation system. Lastly, you get your turn-by-turn directions, otherwise known as route preview, a mini map. This is also where you'll see things like Apple Maps if you have CarPlay connected to your car. You have your G meter, so if you're really big on how much your car accelerates, decelerates, and takes its turns, this is where you'll find that. And last but not least is your music. Bumping it to the right, so boop, gets you to your next little bit. By the way, if you have the other one, you'll basically have on each side of this, you'll have the option to bump right and left using 2 buttons right here, not on the steering wheel though. I'll get to that in a separate video on its own. Anywho, back to this. You have 3 options for your layout. You have either your sport option, where everything's a little more tightened together. This is also where you get your tachometer if you want that. You have your standard option, where you have a wider display, but you instead have a power meter on the side. And last but not least, you have your efficiency layout. This is where you get the maximum amount of view right here, but everything else on the outside is simplified on the left-hand side. You have your current speed and your actual digital readout there. Along the bottom, these will always be exactly the same. Sorry about kind of zooming in and out as I put my hand here. It's getting a little confused. You always have your gas meter right here. This always gives you that little white line. So the more white you have there, the more gas you have. As it goes down, you start to get more of that gray. The thicker line is where you're actually at. Your range is right above that. Gas fill with the arrow pointing, letting you know that your gas filler is on the right-hand side of the vehicle. Time, speed of your current road, all of your seatbelts in the car, your current drive setting. So if you're in park, drive, reverse, neutral, or sport, that'll show up here. Of course, also if you go into sport and switch to using your paddle shifters, it'll switch to M, letting you know that's in manual mode. Everything to the right here, of course, is your external temperature and your car's engine temps. With that, let's move to the right-hand side here. So this is iDrive8. This part right here is basically your interaction with the car itself. You have things like your navigation. Everything scrolls to the right here, by the way. Navigation, music, your car's individual things here. A fun little thing about this, if you didn't know, if I put on my turn signal, it will show me my turn signal is on there. If I touch the brakes, it will show me the brakes. This is my personal favorite. This is the clock too. It basically just gives a simplified version of the clock itself. It is 1:15. Ta-da. Weather, telephone, so whether your phone's connected. I do not have my phone connected, that's why it says nothing's connected right there. Personal assistant, also accessible using this button right here. Date, route preview, and traffic all the way at the end. Everything on here can be moved around by pressing and holding, similar to your phone, allowing you to basically drag and drop. So you say, yes, I want this over here instead, or you can touch this little X button right there. That gets it away. When something is gone, it does go over and be part of your extra added widgets. So if you see when you're in your modify this, if you see add widget, that means that you have things you're not currently using. Usually that's going to be the clock too, and maybe one or two other things like traffic conditions. So those will all be hidden in your add widgets. Then you can simply touch a widget, which adds it back into your main setup. Within here, I do have other tutorials out there, so do look into those on how to use the newer navigation system, connect to Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of those. If you didn't know, BMW does use wireless Android Auto as well as Apple CarPlay. And if designed for it, you will also have the option for a wireless charging tray and or an NFC tray. NFC basically means that your phone can act as a key, but it will not charge. This one always has a standard charging tray, so that's not the situation here. Give me one quick second. I just realized I have a little bit of dirt on this thing, so I want to try and get rid of it. Much better. Anywho, with that, on the left-hand side here, if you've ever had any other BMW, you might recognize what used to be on the side here. Things like media, navigation, telephone, car, and apps. So now they've simplified all this. Now everything is either an app, music, communications, navigation, and if you have Android Auto or Apple CarPlay added, you'll have a fifth one added on the bottom here, switching everything together, where you have quick access to your Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Everything to try and make everything easier. Before, if you've been in an iDrive 7 car before, you might notice that when you went to your settings, you used to have what was basically a list on the left-hand side, and then when you clicked it, things like your settings option, you'd get a horizontal list of all your things like general settings, exterior lights, driver assistance, all that. To try and make it even simpler, so rather than having you go through kind of a correlation of everything, they've now made it all into one simple app section. So going into your apps, you have options for all your apps. This gives you every app available in the car. But if you've ever been in any previous BMW, you might recognize some of these things in here. BMW ID, mobile devices, personal assistant, navigation. All these are basically quick links to the things that you saw on the main page here. So, for instance, if I went to navigation, it goes into our navigation screen, the exact same as if I'd simply touch navigation from here. So everything that's in this is technically, if you will, an app. Everything on here, quick access, FM radio, Sirius radio, Spotify, all of these things. Even things like My Modes. My Modes can also be quick accessed through things like this. Then you have other options there throughout the car, things like your driving settings. If you look in here, you actually have drive settings in here as well, right there. Then you have things like your interior light options. If I press this guy right here, this brings us to our interior lighting, which if I back up, you'll notice that that is the same thing as, where are you? There you are, interior lighting app. So all these things are basically just functions within the car put into a folder so you can neatly get to whatever function you're trying to get to. And it's all pretty straightforward. Even climate control. You might notice you have climate control menu right here. Both of these do the same thing. If I press climate control, it brings into my climate controls. If I'm in any other menu, pressing the climate menu takes me to the exact same place. So again, everything is app oriented. The only thing that is not going to be changing for your apps is always going to be this lower bar right here where you can change and see what's currently active. Heated steering wheel, heated seats. Now high, so you don't have active heating. Likewise for your temperatures itself, along the bottom here, you can increase and decrease the temperature, and you'll get a little active animation letting you know that it is actively cooling compared to your current temperature, or actively heating if I put this above where we were at before. So let's do, it's slightly colder. Let's pop it up there. There we go. Active heating. That's a little too toasty in here. Let's take it back down to, it's actually a little toasty here to begin with. Take it down to 72. Anywho, getting back to this, Everything that you can access in your car will be here. Certain things that are in here are not accessible unless you have an active BMW ID. What that means is when you get your car, you have access to now your BMW ID if you haven't had a BMW, or if you've had a previous BMW, you probably already know about your BMW ID using the My BMW app. You can access all these extra features, things like, if equipped, drive recorder, YouTube, Alexa, all these other things that connect you to BMW's connected services are only available after you've actually activated your BMW ID. You can do that by going to your BMW ID, add BMW ID, and from here you can actually add it via one of two main ways. You can either, using the My BMW app, scan the QR code within it. Again, if you want, I have another video on exactly how to do that. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, yes, abort, you can actually just put in your same BMW ID right here by just putting in your email and your password. It'll bring you through a couple prompts telling you how to sync everything else. After you are synced up, it'll give you the options to go back here. Basically, how to recognize you. You can basically make yourself safer by setting a PIN and linking your driver profile to either a standard vehicle key or, in my case, the digital key plus. Not every car has digital key plus. That's basically the newer ones. Think X1, X7, 7 Series, and the upcoming April productions of the X5 and X6. Those are all the ones that have digital key plus as an option. Everything else has digital key. The main difference between digital key plus and digital key are that when you have the digital key, that basically turns your phone into what's known as the credit card key, meaning that you would have to physically hold your phone up to the door handle outside and then place your phone on your little pad down here to be able to turn on the car. Digital Key Plus basically takes that to the next level, making it so that you can actually keep your phone in your pocket but still have comfort access, meaning just simply walk up to the car and it will lock and unlock while still keeping your phone in your pocket. And with your phone in your pocket, you can still start up the car and drive. That doesn't mean you can't put your phone down here. Obviously, you can put your phone down there and charge whenever you need to, but it's not necessary. With Digital Key Plus, you can keep everything in your pocket. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that. They are expanding that to Android phones as well in the future. As of right now, it's only available for Apple CarPlay, but like as I said, newer Android phones will eventually be able to use Digital Key Plus as well. You'll know whether or not you have that capability by having your car in your My BMW app and simply checking underneath your car's profile whether or not it has set up Digital Key Plus in the options. With that, let's dive into a couple more things in here. So you notice on the left-hand side, you also have a way to narrow it down even further. So if you want just infotainment, you can touch infotainment apps, and that narrows down all of your options to only infotainment things. You, of course, have your vehicle options app. This is basically everything that you had in your settings in iDrive 7 before, all available right here. I will not do a full walkthrough of everything that's in here, just because, again, this is supposed to be a simple walkthrough of where to find things in here. Again, everything is in here is pretty self-explanatory and straightforward. The only things that might be confusing if you've never been in a BMW before are the drive settings and your live vehicle. Live vehicle basically changes depending on what your drive mode is. So you can have the options of what kind of content you have. Adaptive content changes based on your different drive modes that you have active. So for instance, if you're in an efficiency mode, it'll bring up an efficiency reader on the left-hand side here. If you're in sport mode, it gives you sport gauges, all of that. So that's your adaptive content. You have your vehicle status, which basically goes over things like your tire pressure monitor, engine oil checks, and required services, where you can see what services are needed for your car and when. Last but not least, picture search. This is a really easy way to go through your car and find out what is what and have access to your owner's manual, or at least a digital version of it. Last but not least, you have trip data. This is what you can basically get when you're on your center display. And let's bump this guy over and go up to our trip data. So your trip data right here is reflective of this feature right here. So you notice you have individual and individual. If I change this to one of our other options we have on here, so you have start of trip, aka each day as you drive, last refuel, last time you refilled the car, factory, and individual. Individual can be any individual reset that's based on you solely. So if you want to get an entire trip, say you travel cross country, you would set individual to monitor that entire trip versus just since each refuel and each day. As you change these guys over here, it also changes in your center display right here. So that's an easy way to figure out exactly how you are doing efficiency-wise. So that's live vehicle. Last but not least, drive settings. Drive settings is where you'll find everything that comes for your driving assistance. Things like chassis, drive off support. That's basically if you have like really deep snow, mud, anything like that. That used to be if you had a traction button that was right here, you could press that once and you would actually get something called traction mode. This is now drive off support, traction mode. Last but not least, parking brake. You have the options to basically automatically have it activate when you turn off the engine and the car goes into park. That's assuming your car doesn't have the park button. Some of these cars do have an actual park button right about here, but 7 Series does not. So that's that. And of course you have over here on the driver assistance, if you've been in a previous BMW, remember there used to be a little car with a green circle around it. This is where all of your safety and warning features are right here. Things like your forward collision mitigation, lane departure warning with steering intervention, blind spot detection with steering intervention, side collision warning, exit warning, emergency stop, fatigue alert, speed warning, and warning for speed limits. Parking are all of your parking options. Things like, when you want to activate, cross traffic warnings, automatic activation, and of course, emergency braking while using active park distance control. Driving, you'll basically have one of two options in here. So if you have driver assistance professional, you'll get these extra options down here: distance control, route intersection, and assisted driving. If you don't, you will only get speed limit assist, where you can get your active assistant here. And last but not least, steering wheel feedback. So that is some of the not super quick, but a simple, idiot's guide walkthrough. Again, not saying you're an idiot, just simply saying, trying to dumb it down as simple as possible for those who might be completely new to this and aren't ready for a full deep dive into these systems. That is your walkthrough, and as always, if you found this helpful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you have anything else you want me to cover, please leave that in the comments below. And yeah, please, we're still growing this channel, so if you found this helpful, share with your friends, and let's get this out there a little bit more. I do apologize for the lack of videos lately. At this point, I've sort of run into a little bit of a wall of what to cover since we don't really have anything new to cover. I will be making a video on the new and upcoming X5 and X6 LCI that's coming out starting April of this year. That's April 2023, in case you don't know in the future that you watch this video. And yeah, that should help